gentlemen, it is Thursday, so you know what that means. We are talking wrestling. It is Wrestling Chat with Friends, the AEW show. I am joined as always by EJ the Collector. EJ, how you feeling today?
Hey, yo, I am here. I am present. I'm accounted for and I'm accountable. And I wish I gave promos as good as Ricky Starks. How about that?
Don't we all?
We'll
Don't
get
we
into
all?
we'll get into that. Let's do a little
We all.
collector's choice this week. I am wearing a scarf. It's not the usual
Here's the triple
BBS.
B, the
It's not
triple
the B.
B
It's not
scarf.
the BBS. It's not the Big Burberry scarf this week. I'm pulling one. I'm pulling one out of the archives. It's an old Miz scarf.
Interesting. Any particular reason why?
It was one of the first things I bought on WWE.com. This B Miz gimmick he had, God, it was well over 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I've had this scarf in the closet for a long time. The only thing I really deducted from it is it looks like that Time magazine photo of Charles Manson, quite honestly.
it
It didn't,
does. Now
they
that you
didn't,
mention that, that's kind
you
of
know what I'm
creepy.
saying? And the
Or
other
it
thing I
could, or
bought,
it could be Dexter Loomis if you look closely.
it could be Dexter Loomis. The other thing is it's a big gold pillow. Another early purchase from WWE.com. I got tons of this stuff laying around. I got a few things on order from ringsidecollectibles.com that are coming my way. I'll show in the upcoming week or two. And my December ProWrestlingCrate.com order will arrive too. So more things to show from the collector. But good to see everyone on our socials. Glad everyone's here. Let's get it on.
As you can see, I am unrivaled and unmatched today. Unrivaled and unmatched. But you went there, so let's start there. AEW Dynamite last night was, I thought, a heck of a good show. I thought it was. I mean, we've talked about it at nauseum. We talked about it last week. AEW's ratings not looking that great right now, but the product of last night's Dynamite really, really good. And for the first time, I think someone, aka Ricky Starks, may have gotten the best of our champion MJF on the mic. So let's lay this out as Ricky Starks uh, wins the battle
Won the
royal.
Battle Royal.
There's a you know casino battle royal type. It's actually not a casino battle royal. It's just like a regular battle royal for the Dynamite Diamond Ring opportunity to challenge the champion.
Battle Royals
Rick,
are so tricky sometimes.
they are very tricky. Couple of botches. We don't have to go through all of it, but there were
No.
some moments, some scary moments in the ring there.
I called someone
Uh,
out last night on our group chat. We don't need to get
you
into it
did
tonight, but he knows who he is.
scary moments. However, I think all is well as it came down to Ricky Starks and Ethan Page. Was it right? Ricky Starks, Ethan Page with Matt Hardy in the ring.
Yep, that's how it ended. And hometown guy got it done.
Pseudo hometown. He's a New Orleans, Louisiana guy. I don't know why they're bringing this Texas thing up. It doesn't make any sense to me.
He just
But
moved
still,
there. He lives there
he
now.
I get it. However, the big news is Ricky Starks wins, throws out Ethan Page, who I do like what they're doing with Ethan Page. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But MJF music immediately hits. He comes to the ring, basically calls Ricky Starks a bit rock. He said he was going to call him the Pebble.
The
It was some
Pebble.
really good stuff. And then Ricky Starks gets the microphone after I'm like, this is going to be tough. What are you going to do? And cuts a promo on MJF that I think had everybody saying, this guy's a star. EJ, you tell me what you thought of the MJF Ricky Starks exchange.
A lot of those same sentiments. I'm glad Ricky Starks won. I'm glad Ethan Page was there till the end. Those are two guys who have been around AEW for a while. Page for sure. Starks came over from the NWA where he was television champion. MJF mentioned that in his promo.
Yeah, Billy Corgan shout out.
Mm-hmm. I think MJF gave another great promo. He looked great with the belt on. But when Starks snatched that mic from him and did what do you go about 3 minutes? He got about 3 straight minutes.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
And he also got MJF knocked out of the ring, made it look good. He did everything he needed to do. MJF did everything he needed to do. I think you give Ricky Starks a moment and he grabbed it and he did fantastic. Twitter lit up over it.
It was great. It was great. And the thing about Ricky Starks that I'm really, really starting to see and love, and it took me a while. Our co-host Megan was always a big Starks mark. She was always talking about Ricky Starks and really really loved him from the beginning. It took me a while to
Me
get
too.
used to the style. It did give. I thought the thing that MJF does that's so awesome is that all of his promos have this hint of truth in them. And the idea that you could look at Ricky Starks and say, you're trying to be The Rock, man. You're not trying to be anything but a lower tier Rock. And the fact that he said it, and then Ricky Starks goes through, the grind that he had to do to get here. He insults MJ. It was just, and I thought the biggest challenge was when he got the microphone. I'm like, okay, how is he going to do this and not sound like The Rock? Like, how is he going to do this and not sound like Dwayne? And he didn't. He sounded like Ricky Starks. It was, I thought, a masterclass of just being able to come back and literally sans Eddie Kingston, maybe the two best talkers in the promotion now, got to really show out for the fans. And like you said, definitely ended the right way with Starks giving a spear to MJF, kind of getting the better of him, his music hitting, the crowd's going crazy. And this does set up a match at Winter is Coming that now I really want to see. I mean, what do you even think of the storytelling and the setup here?
The setup is great. I think if you're kind of in the know, it might be a little predictable. But I hope Ricky Starks is put over in that match the way he was put over in that promo. They're going to have a great one. A lot of near falls, a lot of near misses. Whether that feud continues after that match, I don't think so. I think MJF is built for a longer run than Ricky Starks, but it's a worthy first effort for MJF, and it's an opportunity for Starks to kind of cap this tide of momentum he's running and then stay at that upper level afterwards. I think he's going to move up because of this into that main event level that Ethan Page is getting closer to, that Eddie Kingston had been at for a while and is no longer.
Shout out.
There's a slightly higher echelon with your Moxleys and maybe your Elites and your Hangmans, but right in between there, between that A and B, there's this other slot that like Brody Lee had for a while, that Wardlow kind of maybe occupies a little bit.
Sure.
And I think this will put Ricky Starks firmly in there for hopefully the long run. You never know. But he's the MVP for last night for sure. He really stood out.
Absolutely. I do think he was the MVP of like I said, of a really good show last night. The other big.
Do you have numbers on the number of viewers? I don't.
So I didn't have the ratings numbers as they hit right back. And again, I don't know if it's. I don't know if it turns around from one week to the next in regards to like. I think you got to put together a series of good shows, right, and then hope some things start to turn around. I don't think it's because here's the thing: we didn't know that this show was going to be that good. We knew it was going to be a good show because of the main event, which we'll talk about next. But we didn't know it was going to be like a quality 2 hours of wrestling. You know what I mean?
We talked a lot last week about numbers, and
we did.
I said last week I don't pay a lot of attention to the numbers, but what I kind of gain is that there'll be some fluctuation of maybe 35 to 105,000 viewers over a period of weeks. I mean, you and Tom definitely put it in great perspective last week that it's been in a trending down direction. But I think if you maybe if you look at wrestling even over years, WWE had fluctuations of a couple 100,000 week to week. So that's why I wasn't overtly concerned. But I can't speak for TK and them, whether they are, but the ratings don't mean as much to me as I mentioned to people who are deeper in the business. So, like I said last week, they can count on me watching every week. So
here's a question for you before we move on to the next topic. If it wasn't Ricky Starks that won the Dynamite Ring Battle Royale, if you will, the Dynamite Diamond Ring Battle Royale, who would you have liked to see of the people that was in the ring? Who would you have liked to see win it?
Well, I would have, people like the Jeff Hardys. I like to have seen Dustin Rhodes get a longer run in the match.
Pretty long run, I thought. I thought he got a pretty good pop.
Well, I'd like to have seen him maybe in the final 4 or final 3. Trying to think of everybody else who was in the match. Butcher and Blade aren't built to win that match.
No.
I didn't need Dalton Castle to win that match. I don't
Nah,
need to
but
see.
he did a good spot. I did like the Dalton
Yep,
Castle spot.
there was. Definitely didn't need Brian Cage to win that. Not,
Much higher on Brian Cage than most. I don't know why.
Well, after Brian Cage did what he did in that sort of botched over the top moment, that was about as bad as it gets. And
that was pretty bad.
I think he just needs it was unfortunate camera placement too, but so even Ethan Page is the logical one for me. I think we talked about him on that ascending ride. He's got the firm behind him with Stokely.
Stokely behind him, yeah.
It's great. I think that there's a path for him to get into that same level as Ricky Starks. I guess he's sort of there right now, but I've watched enough Ethan Page in AEW and prior in TNA to know you can put him with the elite and the Adam Pages and the top Japanese stars and have those kind of matches because he is talented and he can talk much like Ricky Starks can. The two of them are on a similar trajectory, and I put either one of them could have won it and satisfied me.
Yeah, I think those are the only two. I really was looking at the roster of who's in this battle royal, who gets a legitimate title shot that would compel the audience to even care about it, and it's those were the logical choices. Either Ricky Starks or Ethan Page.
That's the reason probably why Wardlow wasn't in it, because if Wardlow had been in it, you would have.
Wardlow's not in it. Eddie Kingston's not in it. John Moxley's not in it. Adam Page isn't in it. Brian, again, of the people that they had in the ring, it was, again, we don't want to see, because you don't believe Dalton Castle or Lee Moriarty or, even the Matt Hardy could win against MJF next week. Or
same reason why, Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Nikolai Volkov didn't win Royal Rumbles back in the day either.
Yep. So, that's a good one though. But yeah, I think Ethan Page is a logical answer. I do like what they're doing with Page, in the firm, and even some of the stuff with the Matt Hardy, like bullying him around. They show some of that stuff on AEW Dark as well, and I was like, I like it. Give Ethan Page the mic a little bit more. Let him show his personality.
Yeah,
I think he's got something as we build towards the future. But yeah, there was a glowing amount of people, talent. Roosh isn't in there, and just like none of the House of Black members, you know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah, this was a Ricky Starks built storyline.
It was a complete Ricky Starks built storyline. Let's jump to what I thought was the most compelling wrestling match of the night, and it is the main event, because I did not know how this. Very rarely do I go into a match saying I have no clue how this is going to end. But we had the AEW Tag Team Champions, the Acclaim, with Daddy Ass there as well, taking on the challenge of FTR, who by far is the top guys in the industry. They don't even have to have the AEW belts. They've got, seems like, every other belt known to man they walk out to the ring with, and everybody acknowledges them as the top guys. And that was a bit of the storyline last night, was the Acclaim wants to take on the best. FTR is the best. Let's do it. I thought it was a really good match. I was surprised by the ending. Elliot, what do you think? Were you surprised by the ending? What'd you think of this main event that everybody should see, I think?
Forget the ending. I was surprised at the whole thing that it happened on Dynamite. This was a match that felt like it was a pay-per-view
match. Yeah, absolutely.
Type match, and they sort of dropped it last week. So it's definitely, I popped last week for this announcement and knew it was coming. So the great thing about AEW is they announce it for a regular Dynamite episode, and you go in not knowing who's going to win, because title changes happen on Dynamite. Yep. Feels like a lot more often than they happen on Raw or SmackDown.
Yep.
So yeah, match lived up to the hype. It was great. Am I surprised? Yeah, only because there was been this sort of semi storyline about FTR collecting all the gold, and that was an opportunity for them to carry it for a few weeks. They've got a few defenses of the ROH title coming up against, who are those guys? Dem Boys.
We'll get to it.
Oh, we're going to get to that later?
We'll get to it.
So I kind of was surprised, but I didn't know if they were going to have that pay-per-view moment on a Dynamite, which is why it made sense they won. They'll have some rematch, I hope, down the road when maybe all four titles are on the line again, but yeah, I'm fine with right now with them holding the gold still.
So for those that don't know, really, really great match. The Acclaim wins the match clean.
Clean.
They win it with a pin. I think it was Matt Caster on Cash Wheeler. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3. Not a lot of interference in Tom Fury. It was like a surprise reversal move that Caster gets the pin on, but he wins the pin clean. And basically what this is,
Dax takes clean losses a single star, and Cash will take the clean losses when they're in a tag team.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this, because now I want you to put your conspiracy theory, dirt sheet, clairvoyant hat on.
Always on.
I want it on.
It's always on.
Because there's a couple of things that has happened that makes me think that FTR may not be long for the AEW world. And they've obviously set them up very good as the top guys. Everybody loves them. When the music hits, it's great. However, I think it was Dax Hardwood said prior to the one-on-one match with Bryan Danielson that this was like, if I could wrestle anybody in the company as a dream match, it would be Bryan Danielson. I'm getting that opportunity tonight, and we're going to make the most of it. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at Dax gets a, kind of a dream one-on-one match. It doesn't really have a story. It doesn't really make any sense, but he just gets to go and work with Bryan Danielson for fun. Then I get FTR putting over the Acclaim in a way that I don't know if it fully did that, but it is, hey, look, man, you guys are the champions. You now you can say you beat the best. You fully deserve to have these. And then they announce at the end of, it's so weird, the tag team champions of your company win the match clean in the ring. And the next thing that happens is that the Briscoe brothers call out FTR. They don't even call out the champions. They don't even
But the Briscoe brothers didn't appear on screen.
No, because they will not appear on screen. It's a Discovery thing. We already know that.
Right.
However, they call out FTR as if they're the best. They just took a loss, and they call them out. And the way they do it is with the Ass Boys, and they do this. We got a note from the Briscoes, and it has me thinking in my mind that if they lose, if they drop the ROH belts to the Briscoes, they're going. They're not going to be. This is my conspiracy. What do you think? What do you make of all of this FTR motion recently?
That's similar threads that is going through the conspiracy world in wrestling right now. Yeah, it makes sense in the business of wrestling that could happen. So if you take it out a little bit further, I don't know their contract, but I'm the numbers, but let's just assume if they're starting this process in motion on maybe a slower scale that they did with somebody else recently. We're going to talk about Regal, I'm sure, in our next segment, but similar type thing. We don't know their contract status, but it would come out of nowhere again for me that a team that was, on the, so what's the common thread here? They're getting word, people are getting word to them that WWE would sign them, and that's an obvious, but this is like either bad business by TK or he's just getting screwed. He's just getting played by Triple H. That's a whole different show we can do. But for them, it makes the Ass Boys look like stooges, just passing a message along from those guys to FTR. But AEW and ROH are definitely trying to untangle themselves from each other, because something I think is unpending. It would make sense if FTR is either not long for the world or be dedicated for AEW to reignite a feud with the Acclaimed. Then, as you work it out, you're about one step ahead of me. Now that I'm working it out, I hope it doesn't happen. It would be yet another sign that AEW is not a desired place to work, as it either was perceived once or had been at one time with other people, or Trips is just spending money because he has access to it and the product is different. And there's this new, there is this new awakening in wrestling with WWE. So it's going to the current is going to change and oscillate and bring a lot of these people back when the time is right and the money is there and
Yeah,
contracts are up,
yeah.
basically.
I don't know the answer to this. I'm just looking at the writing on the wall,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
the writing on the wall says either FTR is due for an extended break. I know you like those extended breaks. FTR is due for an extended break, or they're gonna kind of
so
get
will they have to
drop
go
what they
to?
have to and
Would
move
they
on.
do they do a AAA event before?
I don't
If
know what the rules are with I don't know what the rules
I
are with
would I
WWE.
would hate it when someone is as featured as FTR, there'd be just some sort of Twitter announcement from AAA that they're stripping him of the titles. I think that would be the sign to me that they're on their way out. If they
Yeah,
lose
but I
to
mean, look at what
if
was
they
it just
lose to the
recently?
Briscoes and then that happens, and
We
then
have a
Carl,
Yeah, we
you
have a
know,
recent example of this with the Good
right,
Brothers, right?
right,
So
right.
it was a show that they could not attend. It was like a New Japan show or something where they
Mhm.
had belts, and they can't attend because they're under a WWE contract
Yeah.
now.
Well, I'm envisioning like AEW over the last 2.5 years, up until say 6 months ago, was this sort of tsunami that was sort of taking over the WWE city as it was, in a decline. Well, the tide has seemingly receded some, and we're seeing what's left of the number one wrestling company over the last 25 years. And it's just interesting from a business, from a viewership, from a what they're doing contractually with talent is all different. And, it makes me exciting as a wrestling fan. But at the same time, it bums me out to see maybe a team that I've watched for the last year and a half on a new promotion that I really dig end up back on Monday nights. I'll be excited to see them there too, but it'll just feel like a gut punch a little bit to me.
Yeah, I don't see. Here's the thing: I don't know if FTR can be FTR. They were over there. I don't know if FTR is FTR over at the WWE world.
I
Like
know.
it's gonna be they're going to be probably mashed in if this happens.
If this
They're
happens.
not going to be the top guys like they are all around the world and in AEW, right? Even
Yep.
without the belts, they're going to be mashed into Street Profits, Viking Raiders. They're not going to be the Usos. They probably won't be the New Day. You know what I mean? They're going to be they're going to be the Good Brothers, basically. And again, I don't know what the financial contributions and the money is, and that could be a big factor in a lot of these moves. But the Good Brothers are now just the good, and they're getting quote unquote a push more than some of the others,
Yeah,
and they're
you're actually teasing up if we were going to do a WWE segment in the show.
yeah.
You're sort of teasing what I was going to talk about, but go ahead.
No, go ahead because I'm not slated to do a Good Brothers portion of all the things I've got on the list here.
Well, we didn't do a Tuesday show this week that was WWE heavy. So we're going to I want to do one next week before kind of the holidays. We might miss a week or two in late December. So just one thought, we're all following WWE. We know what's going on. It's been
Sure.
it's been doing great. I wanted to throw out, if we were going to talk about it, is since Triple H took over about 6 months ago, from the female side, I think it's clear that Damage Control
Sure.
has had the best of all that have returned. Mia Yim and Tegan Knox returned last Friday on SmackDown. Little shaky, but she's back. We've got Emma is back too. So a lot of women talent have returned under Triple H, but it's pretty clear Damage Control has had the best run so far. Dakota and Io Sky. On the men's side, who do you think has had the best run the last 6 months? That's a little bit harder question to answer.
Much harder.
We're talking about Karrion Kross, Braun Strowman, Johnny Gargano, Dexter Lumis, Bray Wyatt. Help me out. Who else has returned in the last few months? Did I name? Hit row.
Hit row, yeah. But I think you named the.
So I
the
mean,
big ones.
I submit to you that overall, the Good Brothers may have had the best run so far because they've been pushed somewhat. They're with a top star AJ,
yeah.
and they're being featured weekly, sometimes in main events. Bray Wyatt, you just have to rule him out because it's not wrestling.
Not yet.
He was the most exciting one yet.
It's either gonna be them or Braun. I mean, they protected
Braun hasn't had a great run so far. I don't think Gargano has been on.
No, he's I will push back on that simply because he's very much still the monster amongst monsters. They haven't put him in any stories that's worth anything. The Amos story, he
Right.
got the win there, right?
Yep.
So he's still kind of this untouchable, destructive force. You know what I mean? He's not. The interesting thing about Braun is he isn't now where he was when he left the company, which
Oh,
was main event champion title picture. You know what I mean?
right.
Big time Drew McIntyre type level, right?
Yep.
Nobody's Roman Reigns level, but he was up there in the
If they
top.
if they wanted to catapult Braun back up to maybe where he was quicker, you have him at the end of the Brock Lashley feud.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I feel like they protected him enough right now where he is still could be a main eventer type
Maybe.
guy if they
We'll
play
see.
their cards right. So I think right now of the stories that's the best, the OC versus the Judgment Day of the people that have returned outside of, like you said,
Yeah.
Damage Control.
I wouldn't have thought with those sort of big name returns like Gargano and, not Wyatt, but Gargano, that Doc Gallows, Carl Machine Gun Anderson have had the best
They haven't
return
figured
of
it
them.
out yet.
And they haven't even been there that long either. But there is heavy rosters on both AEW and WWE right now.
Let's you alluded to it, and I want to kind of go through some of this stuff, and if we have time, talk about the Ring of Honor Final Battle pay-per-view as well. But we saw what I think is our last ever images of Lord William Regal, who Tony Schiavone called Steven several times the whole time, who's supposed to be his dear friend, and he's calling the wrong name.
For 30 years. Yeah.
And so they have this kind of slap together farewell, if you will, of Regal explaining why he did what he did. And initially, he couldn't teach Blackpool anything anymore. And he knew that they wouldn't let him go because he is going. I think he's already signed with WWE for January. So he had to do something to teach them their final lesson. It is what it is. I didn't really need it. I was telling people in the group chat today, if they had just left him laying in the ring with MJF standing over him, that would have been the same to me. He kind of has this storyline, but the storyline, what it does do is it might give the remaining members of Blackpool a reason to stay together. What did you make of the Regal send-off?
I wouldn't say I was touched, but it was a cool little send-off. The whole thing still kind of confuses me, makes me a little sad. He's had a great run in AEW, and whatever made him get back seemingly in WWE's, graces. He's a big Triple H friend. Everyone knows this. So I hope one day they open up and we hear about how this all went down, but we probably never will. How much airtime he gets on WWE. I've heard that he might not be an on-screen presence for a while.
I don't even think he's going to be an on-screen guy.
Well, if that's not the case, that's sad for wrestling fans because look how great he's been over the last year in AEW.
He's been better than I thought. At first, I was like, he's been better than I thought.
Yeah. So what this does for Blackpool Combat Club, let's see. In that farewell speech, he did sort of put over Wheeler Yuta a little bit. Yep. I don't need as much Wheeler Yuta as some people need Wheeler Yuta, but I like Wheeler Yuta just fine. But I'd rather see a lot of other guys week to week. But I don't know if that. I think it's going to split off with Claudio and Wheeler maybe going to Ring of Honor more, and Moxley staying a main event star in AEW. That'll keep the thread of Blackpool on both promotions. So I think you'll need some of that at the beginning, but I think it'll be heavy. I think those two, Claudio and Wheeler, we'll see less of them on AEW and more on Ring of Honor, maybe based on outcomes that happen this weekend.
Do you have a problem that Blackpool doesn't have a leader now?
No.
Because here's the thing, even with Bullet Club always has some de facto leader, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Four Horsemen always had some de facto leader, even if Ric Flair wasn't there, right? So Blackpool really doesn't have a leader, unless it's Danielson. Do you think it's Dan? Mox doesn't want to be the leader of Blackpool.
Yeah, I think it ends up maybe being Danielson. Maybe at some point you could have Danielson and Mox. Tension is always a little bit there. If they did get somebody, who would they get? Right now, there's nobody that you would want to see unless J.J. Dillon comes back for
Dante
a while.
Martin. I thought you meant into Blackpool. I was like, no, Dante Martin's the natural pick for the next member of Blackpool.
Dante Martin?
Well, maybe not now because his brother's back, but I thought they were teasing that up for a bit to have Dante in Blackpool.
I can think of a lot of people I'd want to see along the lines of a Dante Martin. Lee Moriarty doesn't have enough name recognition to join it
Yeah,
yet.
he joined the firm. I think the firm takes him out if he joined the firm.
Right. Who? Okay. Well, yeah. Next week I'll come with 5 names who should be the next
who
Black
should
Hole,
be in the next Black Hole comment. You know what? I think it fades away. I'm okay with it fading away.
I'd like to know where that ranks on the merch scale. I bet it's higher than we think it is. That is
true. Because it's sweet. The merch looks really good.
Yeah. Our Heel and Heels Megan has some merch from them.
Yeah.
It's not needed because Daniel Bryan. Well, it's not needed. It should be, but Bryanson and Moxley are 2 elite level talents that on their own can be huge stars. Together, they'll be huge stars. Claudia is basically there too, but I think on a Ring of Honor level. So them as a group will have a much smaller connection, but it'll be over 2 distinct programs, which keeps it, I think, strong and alive for a while.
Here's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Danielson actually take the lead to be the leader of Blackpool. They go back to the essence of getting some young talent.
Is he going to stop wrestling? Is he going to stop wrestling? Because if that happens, I wouldn't mind seeing that. Because I
think he still wrestle. He can wrestle. He can wrestle and lead Blackpool.
I worry about his health.
Bryan Danielson?
Absolutely. I worry about all their health, to be honest with you.
But I think he could be the kind of the leader of it. I think if you do this, I don't think you jettison Mox. I think you just let Mox kind of go and be Mox somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. You keep Claudio in the fold. You have Danielson as the leader, Claudio, Wheeler.
Well, you think it's going to dissolve, so you know.
I don't think they have much left. I don't. All right. Let me ask because there's a couple other things that I do want to ask about.
Yeah.
And maybe you can help me understand this. What exactly are they doing with Samoa Joe? So Samoa Joe takes on Darby Allin, destroys him, pins him. It's over. Beats him, chokes him out to unconsciousness, and then lifts him up and slams him over a skateboard. One of the more vicious things I saw in a very vicious match. But in a bigger picture, what the hell are they doing with Joe? Like, Joe's got 2 titles, and I mean, I like Joe just fine. I think Joe's a very talented athlete. He's a talker. I've never known Samoa Joe to really kind of move the needle per se, but he's got 2 belts. He's destroying people. He's gonna fight at Final Battle. Like, what are they doing with Samoa Joe? And do you like what they're doing with Samoa Joe?
Looking back at Samoa Joe's career, it goes back over 20 years solid on television. You know, mostly in TNA. Still started in Ring of Honor, long I think Hall of Fame, you know, ECW run, Hall of Fame TNA run. His WWE run as a competitor wasn't as long as it would have been because he was peaking when he joined WWE.
It was like he did NXT for a while, got hurt.
Mm-hmm. He was on the mic for a while and was able to do that.
Yeah,
he was obviously not done with wrestling. He had more to prove, and he is. You could argue like. Performing as well as he ever has in his career. He certainly has among the most eyes on him as a wrestler he's ever had. I kind of don't get it either. They're not bringing. They keep having Ward. There's obviously gonna be another Wardlow Joe match.
Yeah.
There's some element of like let Ward. You know, over time you got to have these guys who are going to build these long careers, like start stacking titles. You know, Seth Rollins drops it for a while, gets it back. It's how at the end of some of these guys who you hope to be top guys. If you hope Wardlow, if AEW lasts 25 years and you want Wardlow, who's in his mid-20s, to be wrestling like Christian Cage in his late 40s with this same company, maybe after 2 tours of duty in WWE, he's got to have 4 or 5 runs with the TNT championship. So this is how it's going to happen. He'll get it back at some point, but.
Well, he's not going to drop it Saturday to Juice Robinson. Do you think?
Tell me what's on the line on Saturday.
Ring of Honor Television Championship.
I do believe he drops that to Juice Robinson.
And Juice is now signed with the company. Juice is now in AEW.
I do believe Juice
that makes sense. Okay.
I believe Juice will be featured heavily in Ring of Honor. Not so much in AEW. So yeah, I believe Joe is going to drop that somehow. maybe not even a clean, Juice Robinson is part of the Bullet Club. He's known for
Yeah.
shenanigans.
Yeah.
So he drops that. There'll be a refocus of Joe as the TNT champion with a run with Wardlow that will at some point down the road lead to them probably switching the belts a few times.
Yep.
Joe is someone, though, I do see for Ring of Honor, maybe long-term, because that's where his home was. He could be one of those floaters also that comes back and forth. So I think there'll be, Tony alluded to it in his media call this week, there's going to be a little bit less untangling of,
Yep.
You're going to see seeing less Ring of Honor over the coming weeks, which leads you to believe that something's on the horizon for their own deal, but nothing has officially been announced yet.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. Here's, I guess, the thing that frustrates me about the way that Samoa Joe is used and being used, and it's not at the expense of Joe. I think Joe's extremely talented, and like you said, he's doing some of the best work he has. But it's like we've seen Miro come and kind of go. We saw Jay Lethal kind of come, and it's just like I wish, like, if this was Jay Lethal's run, I'd be like, phenomenal, fantastic. I completely get it. This is Miro's run, phenomenal. I totally get it, fantastic. If this was Malachi Black's run, you know what I mean? And it's Joe comes in and just gets the run, gets the gold, gets 2 golds. You know what I mean? I'm just like, just destroying folks.
What's better? Having the guys you just mentioned, who basically just about all of them, maybe save for Jay Lethal, has had a notable WWE career. What's better? Having these guys appear less sporadically than we're used to seeing them, but they're filming movies as Miro and Joe have done. They're rehabbing injuries, which Miro and Joe and all of them have basically had. Having them do it this way, or being on the road with WWE as much as they were, and being at a card table on a poker game on Raw instead of being in the ring where they should have been. Which is better? Like, I feel like I'm getting okay with Miro being away. Like, I wish I saw him, but
no, I think, like, again, this is at no fault to Joe. Joe is doing exactly what Joe should do. Joe is being treated like an asset that he is. However, I think the kind of flip side of this coin is I do want to see these guys work weekly. I would have loved to have seen Andrade work weekly. I would love to see Roosh work a lot more. I would love to see, like I said, Miro work a lot more, especially because when they come into all of this kind of fanfare, and we've got this new signee, and it's going to be great. And then they just, like, not, stick them on Dark Elevation or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a little bit frustrating, but not at the expense that I'm very happy for Samoa Joe. I think he deserves the run that he's getting. But, like, fuck, man, like, there's just so much talent that I thought could have had those spots and made a lot of sense in those spots, right?
Speaking of jumping real quick, speaking of talent, sort of like coming in and out, what did you think of Dolph Ziggler making a return on Monday Night Raw, inserting himself in the Austin Theory Ali storyline?
Dolph can do very little wrong in my book.
There you go.
I just think he's extremely talented, and he's one of those guys that makes everybody look good. And I also think whatever storyline Ziggler's in is a more interesting storyline. I just really enjoy him. So
how long do you think he'll be on TV before he disappears again?
I don't know. I was really, again, and somebody like Dolph Ziggler, who's had the career that he's had, as long as he's had, like, I really got excited when he showed up at NXT and was like, and I got excited when Apollo Crews showed up at NXT, and I got excited when Mandy Rose showed up at NXT. And I don't know if you probably remember this too, because you watch this stuff like I do, but remember the first time in the comeback, I guess, so it wasn't the first time, but when Finn Balor showed up at NXT and had like a glorious kind of resurrection before he got back on the main roster. Mm-hmm. I feel like a guy like Ziggler needs to be on TV, needs to work. Now, could he do the big storylines? Absolutely. Will they give him the opportunity to do so at this stage of his career? Probably not. So you're basically, a legendary WWE guy, but you're Kofi Kingston at this point, like wrestling solo matches and jobbing to, who did Kofi job? Like, no, got Gunther the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Clean.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So But I love Dolph. He can do no wrong. I want to see him on TV. So anytime you put him on TV, that's great for me.
Yeah, if WWE's sort of B roster is guys like Kofi and Dolph, the company's
that's where they are now.
In good shape. In good shape.
Let me ask, because we did have a Jade sighting again.
We did.
So Jade and the Baddies took on.
There were a couple of Jade sightings this week.
I do think they're getting it. I think they're getting it now. I think the more Jade, the better. And they're really.
I'm talking about outside of a ring as well.
Yeah.
Did you?
No, I mean I agree. I think that they're.
Did you see who she was with the other night?
I did. I said in the group chat that she was with Trinity, from who hasn't, there's Sasha and Trinity hasn't come back yet. We don't know. Nobody knows what the hell's going on there anymore. Mm-hmm. Anybody that thought they did, it's all kind of confusing. But Jade Cargill and Trinity were hanging out at the Miami Heat game and taking pictures and doing, which is all great for Jade. It's amazing for Jade. Amazing. So she gets another dominant clean pin, and it's kind of funny because it was very clear that they didn't want her to go over on Kiera Hogan yet, because I do think that's a future feud, the baddie that gets kicked out. But she definitely she Jade's Madison Ray, who's been a jobber since she signed to be the coach, and gets the 1, 2, 3. Here's the thing I'll say about this, and then we will quickly review Ring ROH and get out of here. I think I might see, because there's all these theories, right? But here's the thing. I think you might see one of the baddies, because here's the thing. Kiera Hogan, very close to Red Velvet. They do a bunch of dancing together, a whole bunch of like TikToks together. They're traveling together. And there was a look that Red Velvet gave after that match that made you think that something might be in the works, where she might be sick of Jay too. And so there's this thing where I think there's going to be a Kiera Hogan Red Velvet turn on Cargill. And that may be how she drops.
Okay, I'm down with that. I would have, from as much as I've paid attention to it, which is less than you, but
I pay a lot of attention to Jay Cargill.
I'm in the know with it. That would seem to track, because Jade has sort of turned up the heel heat a little bit in the last few weeks too. Yeah, so it coincides with that, which leads to that inevitable ending. I like it, whether she loses to one of the baddies or someone else becomes,
with the help with the baddies,
with the help of the baddies. But yeah, that would make a lot of sense, because there's not a whole lot of other ways Jade's going to drop it, unless she's, got turned on by her best friends, because she's now starting to like almost mistreat her best friends some. So yeah, that definitely tracks. I like it. Jay, some other breaking news with that is, do we want to talk about Mercedes has been announced for a return to wrestling? Did you see that?
No, go. You told me. I think I know what you're talking about.
Mercedes Varnado, aka formerly known as Sasha Banks, has been announced for New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom 17, which takes place in 2023. Is it January?
So the question, give me the whole reaction. What's your reaction, and what do you think this means for her future?
My reaction is, I don't think we'll see her competing full-time in New Japan. I think she's not there for a match. There is someone in New Japan who she's had a little bit of beef with, maybe online. I forget. I don't know what her name is. I forget her name. Forgive me. Top New Japan female star, though. I think she's there for the event. There is some confrontation. I don't know if this is going to make a return, unless, I don't really know the seasons, the big pay-per-view seasons in New Japan, unless there's something big coming up after Wrestle Kingdom. But I think this is purely appearance. I think it does nothing to do with WWE yet, because that's not the space. That's not the space in Asia where WWE is currently running. It's where AEW is running. I was going to say
they had made a lot of announcements about a Japan WWE merger. These are not the same companies.
New Japan's what's AEW is linked up with.
Right, but what was the WWE Japan?
Pro Wrestling.
There's some crossover. Okay, there's definitely some crossover coming up.
Yeah, I mean, the longer time that goes by, I think the less Sasha needs to become a wrestler still, if she doesn't want to. If she has any other inclinations, the longer that goes by, if she's staying in. Now, some people jump on that, and they're quickly back wrestling again. See, as much as he likes to talk about it, see The Miz.
Yep.
He hasn't done much in the movies yet. There are a lot of guys like that. Batista's the exception to the rule.
Yep. Yep.
But Mercedes, maybe she has all of it so far.
She has John Cena potential for sure.
Yeah, and John Cena had Rock potential, and it's part of that.
He doesn't have Rock. He doesn't have Rock potential.
Well, major movies have potential. Major movies have potential, not
like,
potential presidential candidate potential.
No, like even with movies. The interesting thing is, and I think people really don't put enough perspective on this. For like 2 or 3 years, Rock was the biggest action star, single paid.
He still is, I'm sure. I'm assuming he still
per
is.
movie for the world.
I'm assuming he still is.
Yeah, so he was like, it was like Tom Cruise, then it was like The Rock. So I think like the Cenas of the world and the Batistas of the world, Cena might be number 2 in that, right? But they're still not like there's like leaps and bounds between.
Oh, Batista's still number 2 easily with the help of his involvement with the Marvel movies. Absolutely.
Yeah, I see it.
Absolutely.
All right, hey, let's. Is there anything that we missed that we want to talk about? Like again, I kind of black out the Saraya Brett Baker stuff. Like, I don't know what else. There was the
AEW's. No, let's jump into the Ring of Honor pay-per-view.
Let's do the quick preview of what we think is going to happen, and then we will.
I know everyone out there is going to get the pay-per-view, watch it, or follow it on Twitter. We'll talk about it a week from today. I won't be here a week from today next week, but we'll cover it maybe on a Tuesday show. We'll combine things again like we have as we gear for the holidays. All right,
so let's go as fast as we can, and you just give me your predictions and your instant thoughts. FTR versus them boys, the team that you refuse to name. I understand. I get it. What do you think happens?
I've been surprised that with the acquisition of Ring of Honor by AEW, I was hoping that Dem Boys would stay as far away from that former promotion of theirs as much as it pained a lot of people, but they are there. If your theory tracks, which it makes a ton of sense, I'll go ahead and say, or should I counter to you? Because I know you're gonna pick the Briscoes. I'll go with FTR. They somehow retain.
Okay, I'm going to go with the Briscoes, but I also think it's a long play for FTR to start dropping some things and see if they either take an extended break or show up somewhere else sometime in the future. I hope they don't. I think
they're swerving everybody, and they're going to retain and then win the AEW titles. Maybe not.
All right. This is an interesting one that I popped for when I saw it. Shane Taylor shows up on AEW, confronts Keith Lee. He says him and JD Griffey is going to take on Swerve in Our Glory if they worked out the deal. It was Keith Lee and whoever you can find, but it's going to be Swerve in Our Glory. So what do you think about this? We saw Shane Taylor wrestle right here in Richmond. Excited to see Shane Taylor on AEW TV. He's a legend in the Indies, by the way, especially for black wrestlers. So this is a really cool thing.
Absolutely. He'll be a great, hopefully full time. We'll see how much he gets used, but I'd love to see him weekly on some Ring of Honor program. He deserves to be there. We made this call about the last AEW pay-per-view too, but I'll call it again. I think Shane Taylor's team wins. I think now Swerve betrays Lee fully
for the final
time and joins up with Shane Taylor. And we'll see Swerve on Ring of Honor more, and Keith Lee will after they sort of settle it at some pay-per-view upcoming on AEW, we'll see Shane and them go to ROH. Lee will become an AEW single star yet again. That's my short and long-term prediction.
So there's a couple matches on the card that is like this, and it's, you're making a decision, and that decision is, do you want to put Ring of Honor guys over, or do you want to put AEW guys over? And so far to date, they have steadily put over AEW stars, even on kind of Ring of Honor battling out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. However, a lot of people may not remember this, but if like the last not the last ROH show, the very last one, like quote unquote final battle or whatever, Shane Taylor Promotions left there standing real tall. Yeah. And it was like this whole thing of like black wrestling unity and Shane Taylor finally getting his due. and it was a big deal amongst kind of geeks that watch this stuff very closely. And so I'm looking at the card and trying to balance out this kind of ROH AEW thing. If you take the titles off of FTR, that's a win for ROH. Shane Taylor, I do think, and JD Griffey are ROH through and through. I do think that Swerve and Our Glory don't get it together, and Shane Taylor somehow, you know what? I'm going to say that Swerve and Our Glory comes out of this thing with the win, but it's like a dysfunctional win. Like, so Swerve and Our Glory wins dysfunctionally.
Okay.
And they're still not going to be on the same page, but they're going to somehow get
Oh,
through
this
Shane
is gonna,
Taylor.
this is going to drag on longer.
It's
Okay.
going to drag on. All right, let's go to the Women's World Championship. Mercedes Martinez, who we have not seen on AEW TV in a very long time, to Athena, who we have seen kind of displaying this new character, new attitude on AEW like every week. So Mercedes Martinez, Athena, ROH World Championship. Who you got?
I would love to see Athena go over. She's due for some really big wins since she's joined AEW. But this is a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, and I think Mercedes is going to retain, but I think both women will come out looking good. I'm looking forward to this match. I hope it lives up to some expectations. I hope we're talking about it in the upcoming weeks about how good it was. But either way, Mercedes, I think, will get the win.
I'm going to zag. I'm going to take Athena, put the belt on her. She deserves it. And I don't know. Mercedes Martinez doesn't even work enough for me. So I'm going to go with Athena on this one. Kind of a throwaway match here. Dalton Castle and the Boys versus the Assembly, which is Pains of Agony and Brian Cage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Castle and the Boys.
Yeah, Castle and the Boys on the,
Okay.
It'll pop the crowd. Some good spots in that one, I assume.
We talked about Samoa Joe and Juice Robinson. You already gave your prediction on this. You think
Juice
takes the belt?
I think Juice takes the belt.
Oof. No, Samoa Joe's ROH.
You got to promote this basically a new promotion that's relaunching with the biggest TV deal they're ever going to have, or internet deal or whatever they're going to have. Tony's not just going to have them show up every third week for 45 minutes.
I'm gonna go with Joe, and I do think he keeps that belt longer, and I think he drops the TNT title to Wardlow.
All right, we are definitely going in opposite directions.
I like it though. All right, two more to get through. The Pure Championship, Pure Rules match, ROH, Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta.
God, I get so many other wrestlers I'd like to see in this position right now. I'm going to go Wheeler Yuta. There's been just a little bit of emphasis on him right now. Unless Blackpool, this would be a great opportunity for Blackpool Combat Club to get resilient and show their unity. It's either going one way or the other. So let's say Yuta gets that belt back, and we'll, there's be a main event too. But I'd say Wheeler Yuta gets the gold back from Daniel Garcia, and there may be some more evidence that Daniel Garcia may have made the wrong choice for himself.
We are completely zagging again. I love it. It's great.
Good.
I think because I do think that there's this JAS Blackpool double main event type thing. One of them wins. It's going to be 1-1 at the end of the night. I do not think they're lifting the belt off the Ocho. So I think Garcia gets the belt off of Yuta. And then I will give my prediction in the main event, which is Claudio.
No, Garcia is the champ. Garcia retains.
Oh, is that? I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Garcia is a champ. Garcia retains, and then you go to the main event, and the Ocho retains. And
so you're saying they both retain then?
I say they both retain. Hold on. No.
Then you got to pick Yuta because Yuta's not the champ.
Sorry. I'm picking Garcia.
To
and
retain.
I'm picking Claudio.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm picking. That's what I thought.
I'm picking Claudio because I don't want Claudio to join, even though I think it'd be hilarious. I don't think Claudio joins the JAS. I think he gets the belt. He's at the top. And then, two flips.
I think a few weeks ago we thought that with Regal betraying the BCC, we were going to see it dissolve, and Claudio was going to look like a clown, having to join the AAS and getting his own purple hat. And I'm kind of glad things doesn't look like it's going to. I also think Claudio is going to win the title.
Yes.
I think it's good. I think Blackpool Combat Club is going to rebound from this devastating loss of Sir Steven Regal. Danielson will make his return, get involved in one or both of those matches, and they're both going to walk out of there. You think Garcia's going to retain? That's fine.
I think Garcia retains.
I think at the end of the night, we both agree that Claudio is going to regain that title, leaving Jericho to refocus on whatever he's going to do with AEW.
After what could be the greatest ROH championship run of all time.
It really
so good.
Yeah, well, he can.
It's so good. I'm gonna be sad that if the Ocho leaves us, I'm gonna be sad.
Remember when, after so many different factions, there was a faction in TNA that was made up of like the top guys of like Sting, Steiner, Joe. They were all wearing suits each time. They were like
I remember that.
I love it. If Jericho could team up with Mox and Danielson down the line, as the three oldest guys, you'll see. We'll see.
I never say never in wrestling, right?
That's right.
But
we covered a lot tonight. Yeah,
we did, and we did much longer than we thought we were going to do. We did it sort of fast, but the idea, here's the last thing I'll ask you, and then before we get out of here, because AEW has a history of putting on really, really good pay-per-view events. We always complain about the length. We always complain about like 0 hour to closing bell. This one, though,
it's no longer closing bell. Now it's 0 hour to end of media scrum.
Right, but I think it's a really restraint card in regards to the number of matches we know about, right? I think good, not great, but good matches. There's not a match on there that's like, I need to stop everything to see Claudio fight Chris Jericho.
Are you going to order the pay-per-view?
I am going to watch the pay-per-view. I'll say it like that.
All right.
I'm going to watch the pay-per-view.
I can infer that you might buy it.
I will figure out a way to make sure that I'm watching the pay-per-view. The other thing is Saturday night is going to be super crowded, I think, with other sporting events too. So there's a lot going on.
Well, it doesn't feel like an AEW pay-per-view to me, even though being built is Ring of Honor, but is it AEW presents Ring of Honor? However it is, I'm taking this as hopefully the beginning of two distinct different directions that TK will hopefully get helped managing both. And we see two healthy companies come out of one semi-dysfunctional period of one company, and couldn't come at a better time because the number one promotion, WWE, is running at full speed right now, it seems.
Yeah, I mean,
gives us a lot to talk about, which is good.
Gives us a lot to talk about, and it's a good place for wrestling. It's not. There was a time, and I can't even remember if it was in 2022, might have been 2021, where I was actually asking myself openly, is this the best time ever to be a wrestling fan? I just felt like AEW was coming on, WWE was there, the indies were just like this exploding with like GCW and it was like this weird thing that was happening. I was looking around and saying, it was like, is this the absolute best time to be a wrestling fan?
A lot of people were saying that.
I don't feel like that right now as it stands on December 8th, 2022, but I also feel like this might be the start of a run where WWE just gets their crap together. Like 100%, like we're getting this together. We're circling wagons. We got the best talent in the world. We've got the best creative in the world. We've got the best production in the world, and we're gonna kind of flex on folks.
Go for it. Let's see. I mean, again, I don't think they're looking to put anybody out of business or turn the lights out on anyone's shop. I think that's good. But it'll give us hopefully really great programs. It'll make AEW continue to step up their game if they're good enough.
And I think that's the point. And I think that's the point that a lot of us, because we're wrestling fans and it's tribal and it's stupid, but I think that's the point that Triple H might be seeing that a lot of people aren't. I think Triple H is not looking at destroying any other company, AEW included. I think at this point, Triple H is like, what's the best product WWE can put out? And so I think he's operating in a way, because again, there was these weird times.
If you're thinking that, then why do you have this? I mean, I asked and then answered my own question. This question the other day is, if that's the case, why do you have this whole Vince-like segment of a ridiculous poker game that has nothing to do with any of this? It's stuff. It's stuff we used to
I
see and
don't
rail
know.
about. But then
I
I thought.
can't
But then I thought. You know what?
can't answer that.
What they're trying to do. Here's how I rationalized it and answered it. Triple H realized this is not exclude. This is a entertainment program. There is some core audience that would find this amusing, and we're getting talent in front of cameras. They're not in catering. They're getting some FaceTime. It doesn't. It's a sort of like a storyline within the show, not some storyline that lasts week to week. It sort of always happened. It's not for us, but it's
It really has always happened.
there
It
are.
was the most WWE thing that could have taken place.
So I don't know if Triple H is trying to do the best programming, but he's trying to make it. There are whispers. The XFL is about to start, which Dwayne started.
Yeah.
There's probably still some WWE connections through there.
Well,
WWE.
Vince McMahon started it.
Of course.
The Rock owns it now.
Yeah,
but,
there are whispers of WWE wanting to get into the boxing game. So again, this is Triple H trying to make this more than just wrestling company. He doesn't care if someone on another channel just wants to be a wrestling company. Right.
The other Khan is a television guy. He is not a wrestling guy. So Nick Khan is a television product.
We'll talk about it on an upcoming WWE show, because I want to talk about the generational kind of shift that's getting ready to happen with the way WWE now is kind of really no longer recruiting wrestlers. They're getting college talent and developing WWE characters. We're getting to a point in a couple of years where the opening crawl for WWE, where you hear the glass shatter of Stone Cold Steve Austin, you hear Ric Flair's call, you hear Triple H saying King. The next generation of wrestlers and wrestling fans don't even know those names anymore.
Yeah, no. Here, look, I'll tell you, and I'll get out of here. Spoiler alert. I interviewed the head basketball coach for the University of Richmond today, Chris Mooney. He'll be the next Cheats Movement interview coming up, either probably not tomorrow, but early next week. And I mean, NIL has changed everything, and not just obviously in football and basketball. They are signing college athletes, and they will be the future generation of professional wrestling. And they will be coming from gymnastics, and they'll be coming from track and field, and they'll be coming from basketball if you're looking for the next 1 in a million, right? So the future is completely different than what we know, and the indies will in turn will be completely different from what we know as well, because there's still more wrestlers than ever signing up and taking classes in the indies and getting trained by guys like AR Fox, who just signed with AEW, who has a big wrestling school, and so it's wide open. It's wide open. It's going to be awesome. So,
good time.
Elliot, let's ask you closing arguments. How do you want to get out of here? Do you have any heel or faces or wrestling matches we should watch?
Oh, all of our fans and all of our friends and our families, those are always the faces in our lives. As we enter the holidays, I just want to give lots of shout outs to everyone who supports our show, who watches our show, who supports us, you cheats, me, friends, family, our heel and heels, Megan. Shout out to her. She's working so hard. Our friends like Shoot Taylor and Chris Keith out at UEW. They're doing great things. I hope everyone's doing well. Enjoy the next 2 weeks of wrestling. Enjoy the holidays. I'm glad. I hope everyone stays safe and happy, and everyone's home. Everyone's getting home soon. Shout out Brittany Griner getting home. So lots of love to everybody. Hope we see y'all soon. We'll see you Tuesday. I won't be here Thursday, but next few weeks we'll have great wrestling to review and talk about and be with you guys.
Yeah, man. I couldn't say it better myself. Shout out to the good people of Georgia. And then that'll be my face of the week and for many, many reasons. And we'll get out of here, man. We're going to count this thing out. 1, 2, 3.
I'm tapping. We're out.
Until next time, guys.